This is a homeschool e-learning lesson on developing reading skills. Lesson 2, Scanning for Information. By the end of this lesson, you will know when to use scanning skills, you will understand how to scan a text for specific information, and you will be able to use scanning techniques to locate specific details within text for use as supporting evidence when you're answering exam questions and writing essays. So what is scanning? A bit like skim reading, scanning is a speed reading skill, but rather than getting a generalised idea of the text as you do with skim reading, when you scan a text you are looking for specific details within longer text. So that could be in an exam setting where you're looking for specific quotes, but it can also be in daily life where you're looking for the next bus that's going to come along. So it's a speed reading technique that allows you to quickly locate specific details within longer text by effectively blurring out all of the irrelevant things and just zooming in on what is relevant to you. Having worked out the information that you need, what you do is to literally scan your eye across the text, only stopping to read those bits of information that might be relevant to you. They might be relevant to the thing that you're looking for. So for example, if you're reading a list of bus times, you're not going to read all the ones of the buses that don't go where you want to go. You're only going to read the ones of the one that stops where you want it to stop. So you sort of blur out everything else and zoom in on what's relevant to you. It's a skill that you need to use in exams when you're asked to provide specific quotations. On both papers you will be asked to provide very specific quotations for a particular theme or idea or character. You'll be directed to a particular part of the text and asked to find them from that particular part of the text, and that's when you're going to need to employ scanning skills. You will also need to employ scanning skills when you're asked to give essay responses to explain a particular idea or to explore a particular theme or character, because in every essay you need short relevant quotations to use as supporting evidence to back up the ideas that you're presenting and the comments that you're making. So it's a really useful skill and one that you use a lot when you're answering exam questions. But as I've said, it isn't just confined to GCSE English. Actually, it's a really, really useful skill in real life. Who has the time to read newspapers these days? Who reads the whole of the BBC website when they're looking for news, or any other website for that matter? We tend to skim and scan. We want the information that we need and nothing else, so we just extract that information. But a word of warning, taking information out of context can be dangerous, so just be careful when you're scanning in real life. Okay, so how do you scan a text? Well, first of all, you need to know what information you're looking for. Scanning only works when you are told what to look for or when you know what you're looking for. So you have to know that before you begin scanning that text. Before you begin scanning, think about how the information you're looking for might be presented. Is it going to be in the form of facts and figures? Could it be in a bullet point list? Is it going to be in a passage of descriptive writing? What kind of information are you looking for, and therefore what sort of things do you need to look for as you scan your eye across the text that you're dealing with? You should begin by skim reading the headings, the titles, the subheadings, chapter headings and topic sentences. So skimming and scanning work together, and the reason that you skim read those things is to work out where the information you need is most likely to be found, so you can ignore the parts of the text that are unlikely to include that information. Having done that, having located the parts of the text that are going to be relevant, you then need to scan those bits, and you need to scan and only stop to read in detail the bits that appear to be relevant to the information that you're actually looking for. In exam situations, as we've said, scanning is used to locate relevant supporting evidence in text that you're writing about, for example, quotes and references, and also for those questions that ask you to provide particular words and phrases. So what we're going to do now is to look at how you would apply scanning skills by looking at exam questions that require you to use scanning skills. On your screen you can see an exam question which is going to require us to apply scanning skills. You get these kind of exam questions on paper 2, the non-fiction and transactional writing paper, and also on paper 1 with the 19th century literary text. And these kind of questions ask you to look at a specific part of the text and find particular words or phrases related to a specific idea or theme or character. So in this question we're being directed to lines 2 to 15, and the text we're dealing with is an extract from the diary of Anne Frank, and we are being asked to give 3 words or phrases which show that Anne Frank believes that the quarrels that the adults are having are strange. So you can see that we're going to need to apply scanning skills. We're not going to want to read all of that section of the text. We're just going to read the bits that relate to the quarrels and might suggest that she thinks that it's odd that the adults are having these quarrels. So let's go to the text and see exactly how we would apply scanning skills. Okay, so here we have lines 2 to 15. We are looking for 3 words or phrases that show that Anne Frank thinks that the quarrels the adults are having are strange. So we're not going to read every word. We are going to run our eye over this text and stop only at the words or the phrases that appear to be showing that she thinks that the quarrels are odd. So for the purposes of this lesson, the arrow is going to represent the eye scanning across the text, and then we'll stop when we come to the particular words or phrases. So let's begin scanning across this text, and then we get to line 6 and we read, "I think it's odd that grown-ups quarrel so easily." That would be an acceptable phrase to use. She uses the word quarrel and she's saying that she thinks it's odd. Okay, so let's continue scanning. Okay, so on line 9, "I always thought bickering was just something children did and they grew out of it." So again, that would be a relevant phrase because she's saying that it's strange, that it suggests that it's odd that adults are doing it and they should have grown up by now. So that would be a relevant thing to use in response to that question. We continue scanning. And then on line 13, "I should be used to the fact that these squabbles are daily occurrences, but I'm not." So we could either use that whole phrase, or we could use "I should be used to the fact," because that's suggesting that it should seem normal, but actually it isn't. Okay, so we've scanned our eye over and we've picked out 3 relevant phrases that we could give in response to that exam question. We didn't read every word. We were sort of blurring out the words we didn't need and only focusing on the words and phrases that were relevant for that particular question. Okay, so let's go back and have a look at another type of question that would also require scanning skills. So this question is asking us to explain how Anne describes her relationship with her mother. And whenever you're asked to explain, unless it says in your own words, they want you to use direct quotations from the text to support the comments that you're making. So in a question like this, we're going to need to use scanning skills to look for the details about the relationship between Anne and her mother. Now here they're not directing us to any particular part of the text, so we're going to have to scan over the whole text. So let's go back now and look at how we would do that and look at just how quickly we can do that to get the relevant information. So we're looking for information about the relationship between Anne and her mother. Now it's this second text that's really relevant for this particular question, because this second text is focusing very much on the relationship between Anne and her mother. Okay, so we're looking for details that are telling us a bit about their relationship, what their relationship is like. So if we begin scanning across, remember the arrow that you can see on the screen is representing the eye scanning across the text. "Give mother a good shaking." So, and then if we scan back, "I'm seething with rage," and she wants to give mother a good shaking, so she's angry at her mother. So let's go on and see if we can work out why. "Because of the nasty words, mocking looks and accusations that she hurls at me day after day." So nasty words, mocking looks, accusations. So she feels that her mother is picking on her. Piercing me like arrows. So she really feels this. She feels under attack from her mother. I'd like to scream at mother, and then she lists her sister and some of the other people that live in the house. At least one night when I don't cry myself to sleep. So she, you get the sense that she feels like she's a victim here, that she's being unfairly and harshly treated by her mother. So if we go on. Okay, there doesn't appear to be anything in the next paragraph about her and her mother. Let's have a look at the next one. Or that next one, but then the next one, more than once I've snapped at mother. So they have a very fiery relationship. So she's snappy at her mother, but she thinks her mother picks on her. She'd tell me not to answer back and virtually ignore me for 2 days. So the sense that the mum is being unfair. Suddenly all would be forgotten and she'd treat me like everyone else. So there's a sense that she thinks her mother's unpredictable as well. So we get the sense that there's a very difficult relationship between Anne and her mother. Okay, and there isn't really anything specific about the relationship between Anne and her mother in the last paragraph, although you could use that topic sentence. It's impossible to be all smiles one day and venomous the next, because that's linking back to the idea of the mother being harsh and unkind to her one day and then just treating her like everybody else. So it's quite a short text, but by scanning it, just spending a minute or two scanning through, you get all of that information, and all of those would be relevant quotations to use to back up the case that the relationship between Anne and her mother is not a good one. It's a difficult, fiery relationship. They don't get on, they don't see eye to eye. There's a real clash between mother and daughter, and all of those quotations that we've picked out could be used to back up that interpretation. And to find those, we've used scanning skills. We didn't read every word, we simply scanned over very quickly, just stopping to read things where we saw the word mother, or where we saw maybe an aggressive verb or adverb that would suggest something about the relationship. So really honing in on just the relevant parts is what scanning a text is all about. Okay, so now it's your turn. You have a copy of the text that you can see on your screen, so you should have already printed that off. And what you're going to do is to answer some questions that are about to appear on your screen. They will require you to scan your copy of this text for very, very specific information. What you need to do is to use the techniques that you've just seen demonstrated to scan this text and answer the questions effectively. Now they're going to ask you for specific words and phrases, and you're going to be directed to particular parts of the text, just like you saw in that demonstration that you've just watched. And remember that with these questions, it does stop the lesson, and the lesson cannot restart until you have answered the questions. So make sure you've printed off the text. The questions are going to appear on your screen now, and you need to use scanning techniques to answer those effectively. Good luck. Okay, well, I hope you did well with the task that you were set, your scanning task with that text. So let's recap what scanning is. Scanning is basically a speed reading technique. It's linked to skimming, and we do use skimming when we're scanning as well to help us with our scanning. But scanning is used to identify specific details. So whereas skimming gives us a general overview and we can identify the key points with topic sentences, scanning helps us to focus in, to really zoom in on specific details related to particular topics or themes, ideas, perspectives, characters, that sort of thing. In order to scan effectively, there are a number of things that you should be doing. First of all, before you start scanning, you need to identify what information you have to find. So in terms of an exam question, that means reading the question carefully, picking out exactly what it is you're being asked to focus on, and looking for the information that relates to that particular aspect of that text. Scanning only works if you know what you're looking for before you start scanning the text. You then need to employ your skim reading skills and read the headings, the chapter headings, the titles, the subheadings and topic sentences to work out whereabouts in the text you're dealing with the information that you need is most likely to be found. Once you've done that, you need to read only the parts of the text that relate to the information that you need. Ignore everything else. If it's not relevant, if it doesn't relate to what you've been asked to look for, ignore it. You need to be really selective and really discriminating when you're scan reading. When you are asked to provide quotes, or when you're writing an essay and you need to use quotes as supporting evidence, you will need to use scanning techniques. And also in real life, of course, scanning is a really useful tool when we're reading any kind of text, printed or online, in our daily lives. Because, I mean, who does have the time to read a whole newspaper or news website these days? Or for that matter, any other lengthy text. We tend to read quickly, we skim and we scan. So being able to scan effectively is a really useful life skill as well as an important skill for success in GCSE English.